Hello, everyone, and welcome to the edition of Writing Your Own Success Story. Today, we're going to be talking about writing your off-season plan or just your long-term for time out of your day to be here. Just a few notes on how this is going to work. Got a presentation for you, not sure how long it's going to be, probably around 20 or 30 minutes, and then we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So if you have a question for me, I'm not going to be able to read them during the presentation, but we will be collecting them and I will be answering some of them at the end. So you can feel free to write your questions in the chat box. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, in case you didn't know, if you just signed up for this webinar, my name is Melissa Whitmer, and I am the founder of Ultimate Results and the creator of the Ultimate Athlete Project. And so what we're going to talk about today is how to plan your off-season training. And I actually changed the title of this talk to Writing Your Own Success Story because that's really what it is. If you want to be the author of your fate this upcoming season, you can just hope that it'll turn out all right. You can wait 1 or 2 months before tryouts and decide to get in shape, but that's leaving a lot to chance. And so I want to give you the confidence that comes with knowing that you did everything that you could do. And so for that, you're going to need a plan. So let me jump over to my presentation here just 1 second. And maybe in the chat box, you can also sort of let me know where you're from. I like to know who I'm talking to. But okay, let's see. Let's go over to my slides. It's also helpful if you let me know that you can see and hear me okay. All right, here we are. We're writing your own success story, talking about your epic off-season plan. Now, I get a lot of questions in my email asking all kinds of training questions, and I try to answer as many of those as I can. But here's one question that I get fairly often that drives me bananas, and it's this. It's, hey, Melissa, I read about blah, blah, blah on the internet. Is this a good workout for Ultimate? And I hope that if there's one thing I can impress on you today is that it's not just about the workout. So to me, this question is like totally unanswerable. It's like asking Stephen King or John Grisham, is this sentence a good sentence for my next book? It just doesn't really make any sense because there's no context to it. So, anything can be a great workout for Ultimate, or anything can be a terrible workout for Ultimate. It really just depends on the context. So you don't need a workout in isolation. What you need is a plan. Just as a great sentence is pointless unless you have a plot surrounding it. And so I think of a training program as like a very good novel. So I can't promise you that it will never be boring, but I can tell you it has a plot and it involves you being victorious in the end, or at least it gives you the best chance possible of that happening. So many of you have been waiting a while for the Ultimate Athlete Project to open. And if you're on my email waitlist, last week I sent you an email and told you a little bit and where I was at when I started changing the way that I was training. That gave me the idea for the Ultimate Athlete Project. And I also asked a little bit about your stories. And so, I really appreciate all the emails that I got last week. I didn't get a chance to answer them all. I hope to, but I did read them all, and it was really inspiring to see what all of your motivations were. I pretty much asked, like, what are you hoping to get out of this? And a few years ago, the feeling of getting older and running out of time, just wondering what kind of athlete I could be if I actually tried or really committed to it. And so it's tough to leave an ultimate career behind without ever at least once trying to put it all out there and see what you can do. And I received many other stories too. So, we're not all the same. Some of you are leaders on your team or in your community, and you know that what you do has a really big impact. And so you want to lead your team or your community to a higher plane, a higher level of playing. Many of you are young and athletic and healthy and want to make the most of it. All these stories are awesome, and so maybe you can empathize with at least one of them. But whatever your story, we all have our reasons for wanting next season to be better than the last. And I want to help you, well, become the hero of your own story. And I want to give you at least some of the tools you need to be successful. Now, in today's talk, we're going to get to the technical stuff, but to provide you with a framework that will help you make it all make sense, it's helpful to ask the question, which type of these characters do you identify with, or which type of which type of role do you want to play? Which person do you identify with? If you go to any gym, the strength and conditioning coaches there will refer to a client as either Gen Pop or as an athlete. So Gen Pop stands for general populace. And we have these two, we sort of categorize clients in these two categories because they have different goals. They're going to expect different things from a workout. And you can just do different things with athletes than you can do with Gen Pop. So, just think a minute, which one are you? And maybe, some of you, if you're in this situation that I was in a few years ago, maybe you didn't feel like an athlete, but, especially if you're getting older, feeling like you sort of aren't currently living up to your athletic potential, you might not feel like an athlete now, but if you decide to identify with that role, that's going to change and affect your decisions in the months to come. And so it's not just about what you look like or how athletic you are now, but about how you think about yourself or where you want yourself to be. So anyway, just general populace, the emphasis in the workouts or in the training is usually on aesthetics. How do I look? A lot of the general populace is overweight, at least in the US. So the focus is often on fat loss or body composition and muscle appearance, sort of bodybuilding type style things. The focus of the workouts have to be fun. There has to be a lot of variety or the client won't come back. And so you can sort of like make up workouts on the fly. You can go with the flow. You can do whatever type of training the Gen Pop client might want to do that day. For an athlete, things are different. The thing I think of them as training sessions rather than workouts. There's always an emphasis on performance. And so whatever you're doing that day has to translate to what goal you're trying to accomplish on the field, a couple months from now. And so the focus, instead of on fat loss and body composition, is usually on speed, power, functional strength. And we're not working out for enjoyment. Doesn't mean it can't be enjoyable. Hopefully you'll be having fun in your training session, but that's not the main point. The main point is training for results rather than working out for enjoyment. And so if you're going to do this, if you're going to train like an athlete, that means that you're going to have to put some thought into your training plan. You can't just do whatever workout you feel like on a given day. I mean, you can, but that's just not going to give you the most efficient type of results. So again, neither choice is bad, to be Gen Pop or to be an athlete, but which role you identify with is going to affect the decisions you make and the type of training plan you're going to do. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so what we're going to learn today is we're going to learn more about how professional athletes train, how that differs from what most ultimate players are currently doing, though that's changing, and how you can make changes to your training to be more efficient and more effective. Especially if you're already spending time training, you may as well make sure that you're getting the best results possible. So, you're going to want to avoid being categorized or categorizing yourself as Gen Pop if you're seeking training from a gym or a trainer or wherever. And we're going to talk about why how you feel during a workout is a very poor indication of its value to you as an athlete. We'll go over the principles of having a long-term plan, and I'll show you some of what we do inside the Ultimate Athlete Project. And whether you decide to join the Ultimate Athlete Project or to never join the Ultimate Athlete Project, you're going to be able to take something away from today's presentation to make improvements to whatever your current training plan is. So let's start with this quote. This quote is entertaining. I kind of like it and hate it, but here we go. So training versus exercise. This is a quote from Mark Ripito, who is a well-known strength and conditioning coach. And he says, capital T training is a process of driving a physical adaptation in a specific direction for a specific purpose, while capital E exercise is what we do for the way it makes us feel today, before, during, and after the workout itself. And for most people, housewives, car salesmen, fat people, the dull and the torpid, exercise is enough. It's better than sitting on your ass. But at some point, some of these people will graduate to training, and when this happens, planning must occur. So the 2 points that I want to emphasize in here is, well, like, first of all, like, it's totally fine to be a housewife or a car salesman and to decide to do exercise and have a healthy lifestyle. That is totally a valid choice. But if we are thinking about ourselves as athletes and training, there's 2 things that make the difference. One is we're going to talk about differentiating training from exercise, and that exercise is what we do for the way it makes us feel. And we're going to talk about why how a workout makes us feel can be a poor indication about its value to us as an athlete. And we're also going to talk about the planning aspect. Planning must occur when you decide to graduate from it. And I think about this as the difference that happened when, when I started playing Ultimate, I played Ultimate to stay in shape. I played Ultimate to be healthy. Ultimate was my form of exercise. And then at some point that changed. I wanted to be more competitive. And so instead of using Ultimate as exercise, I wore Ultimate. And so that's really the difference that we're talking about here. And again, either choice is fine. Okay, but whoops, let's see, that's not the slide I wanted. Okay. So how does it make us feel? And this is where many Ultimate players or just individuals who are looking for better go astray. If you're always a workout that feels hard, you're actually going to be inhibiting your long-term athletic results. Well, there's 2 ways about thinking about how a workout makes bleeding. So the first example is less damaging. So for example, I have a lot of core exercises in the Ultimate Athlete Project that emphasize stability or functional movement. And oftentimes when I'm doing functional strength exercises, people ask, well, which muscle is this supposed to be working, or where should I feel this? And in some functional strength exercises, you're not going to feel any particular muscle group because we are training movements rather than muscles, is the current phrase of the day. And this is especially true when you're talking about core strength, core stability. You're not going to feel it in your abs the way you do when you do crunches, but crunches are not really what your abdominals are doing when you're on the Ultimate field. Instead, your core is being stable so that you can efficiently transfer momentum from your hips into the disc. And that's a type of thing that you're not going to feel in any particular muscle group. So this is one way in exercise, if we were misleading. Some exercises you're not going to feel anywhere. The core exercises sort of, you sort of stop doing them and you can no longer hold a stable position, but you won't feel the burn or anything like that. But the worst way in which it is misleading is by not understanding the difference between the nervous system and the metabolic or cardiovascular system. So if you're working your cardiovascular system, this is something that you can feel. Or if you're working, your sort of anaerobic if you're working your anaerobic cardiovascular system, you're working a combination of those things, you can really feel. That's when your muscles start to get sore. It's when you're breathing really hard, your heart rate is up. All those things are things that you can feel. And it's very easy to make yourself feel those things. And a lot of times I think Ultimate players get addicted to those feelings of difficulty that comes with those certain types of workouts. However, when you're talking about working the nervous system is something that you don't feel in the same way or really at all. So the nervous system is what's responsible for recruiting muscle fibers the maximum amount as quickly as possible. And that's something that if you're training it right, it should not make you tired. It should not make you feel the burn in your muscles. It should not make you sore. You might, if you have a nervous system heavy workout, feel tired afterwards, really sleepy, but you can't pinpoint the feeling the same way you can with a metabolic or cardiovascular workout. And so for this reason, athletes are sometimes hesitant to do the very type of work that is most important for them as an athlete to make them more athletic, which is nervous system work, because you can't really feel it. There's not the same kind of pride or sort of masochism that comes from doing stadiums all the time or something. So when you're training for athletic qualities like agility, maximum vertical, and speed, oftentimes those training sessions are not going to feel difficult, but those are exactly the type of athletic qualities that become more important the more of an elite level athlete you're trying to be. Also, some phases of training will feel easy as well. If you're in a training phase where you're focused on building maximum strength and you're doing a couple of sets of some heavy weights, sometimes those training sessions do not feel very difficult. You feel like you didn't really do anything. But the proof comes when you trust those training programs and then you see the results. So sometimes you need to sort of try it before you really buy in. And yeah, there's no shortcut for that. Okay, so how you feel about a workout or a training session may be misleading. Okay, so planning is the second thing that differentiates training from exercise. So yeah, because you can't, if you're going to be an athlete and going to be training, you're not just going to do whatever workout you feel that day. Well, how do you decide what to do? So you're going to put things into a plan. And here's just some basic principles about planning that can keep things simple. And I'll review these a little bit later as well. But proper planning puts the emphasis on one or two athletic qualities at a time. And this is different than what you'll find in a lot of sort of Gen Pop oriented exercise programs or group classes. They will try to do all the things at once. So, you're getting in some strength training and some cardiovascular component. You're doing circuit training, and circuit training is great for doing the things that the general populace needs. Circuit training is really good at, burning fat, but it's not good at getting you strong, and it's not the greatest way to get you fast. So instead, if we're planning, we want to put emphasis on one or two athletic qualities at a time, not all of the things at once. And then one athletic quality is going to build upon another in an order that makes sense. When you plan, you have to accept that not all athletic qualities are going to improve at the same time. And this is really difficult, even for me. So like if you're in the middle of winter and you're really focused on strength, well, you might sort of kind of feel, you might even feel out of shape if you're not doing cardiovascular conditioning. You're not doing it for a reason. You're not doing it because that would interfere with getting as much strength gains as you could. But a lot of times athletes define themselves as in shape or out of shape based on how much they can run or what their cardiovascular system is doing. So that's the tough part. Sometimes you have to accept that you can't always maintain all of the athletic qualities while you're working on some other things. Okay, so let's look at how this actually, okay. Here's some other principles that are gonna help you. It helps you to trust your training, trust your plan, to realize that the metabolic training stuff, the cardiovascular stuff, that's relatively easy to get adaptation, and you're gonna get that adaptation quickly. So if that drops off in the middle of winter, that's much easier to get back. And it's much easier to get adaptation in your cardiovascular system than it is to get adaptation in some of the more important athletic qualities such as power, speed, agility. And in order to get the most efficient and effective adaptation possible, you need less interference from other stuff. So if you're really focused on, getting as strong as possible, you would pretty much do no cardiovascular activity. You might try to do a little bit to try to keep up some maintenance, and that wouldn't be terrible, but the more other stuff you throw in there, the less focus you have and the less your body is going to adapt to these specific things, because it's always going to choose to adapt to sort of cardiovascular conditioning over these other things. And so if you want your body to become more powerful and stronger, you pretty much have to not give your body a choice and not give it a stimulus to do the cardiovascular adaptations, because that's what it will sort of choose automatically. Hope that makes sense. Okay. All right. Let's look at how this kind of works in the Ultimate Athlete project. So this is just one example of how a long-term training program might happen in the Ultimate Athlete project. And this would be kind of the schedule that would happen for a college player starting right now. So in the Ultimate Athlete Project, there's basically kind of three categories: off-season, preseason, and in-season. There's also a preparation phase. There's also a taper phase. But basically, off-season, preseason, and in-season are the things. And so in off-season, what we do is we actually have kind of an alternating focus between strength focused phases and power focused phases. And this works really well because strength is the basis of power. So what we do in off-season one is we have kind of a focus on functional strength, doing functional strength training. I'll show you some of those exercises in a bit if I can. And then phase two, we have more of a focus of translating that strength into power. By the time we hit phase three, we've always got eight weeks of training. And so this phase is more of a pure strength phase. So we're already, the phase one has sort of gotten us ready for the more intense work of phase three. And here we're focused on sort of the bigger lifts, squat, deadlift, pull-ups, and bench press, sort of the more traditional stuff. And then again, in off-season four, we focus again on power production. And we do that on top of a larger base of strength. When we get to the preseason phases, preseason is when we want to do the get in shape thing. And we focus more on conditioning. So preseason one has kind of a focus on traditional conditioning, throwing some agility in there as well. And then preseason two is also focused on endurance, but maybe more of a strength endurance kind of phase. And then all of the in-season phases are about just maintaining our athletic qualities and doing our training at a lower volume so that we're not overtraining. So if this were a college athlete, say starting their training in October, this would be maybe off-season one would be October, then November, December, January, and then February and March is when they would sort of start to get in shape, and then April they're probably in season. And then whenever you were ready to taper for your main tournament, you would do the taper phase for the last 3 weeks of training. So there is some flexibility in the Ultimate Athlete Project, and there's flexibility in when you decide to do what. Just so you know, in the Ultimate Athlete Project, there's a total of 6 off-season phases. So for club players, they could stay in the off-season a little bit longer. And then there's 3 preseason phases and a couple of in-season phases. So it's up to the athlete when they switch between one phase and the other. Okay, so let's look inside the Ultimate Athlete Project. Let me go back to here, and I think I have to switch over. Sorry, this will just take a second. Okay, I need to share a different screen. Whoops, hold on just a second. I have to open the window with the right thing in it. Okay, whoops. Just a minute. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what we're looking at is actually inside the Ultimate Athlete Project. And so inside the Ultimate Athlete Project, whoops, we've got, you can see we've got off-season, preseason, and in-season phases. We also have post-season recovery, a prep phase, and a taper phase. And I just want to show you little bits of a few of the off-season phases so you can see how things change a little bit depending on your focus. So I'm just going to look at one of the sort of like lower body strength training days from each of these phases, just so you can see a little bit of the differences. Now, each phase we are doing full body strength training. We've got core work. We've got SAQ work in each phase, which is speed, agility, and quickness. And we have conditioning in each phase. Now, each phase has all of these things. So it's not like we're ever neglecting an athletic quality completely. We are trying to at least maintain a thread of each of those athletic qualities. But how much of each of these things we're doing changes throughout the year. Oops. Oh gosh. Hold on a sec. I think hopefully it's showing up on this screen. Okay. Okay, I think it is. All right. So this is the legs day from phase one. And so this is where we're focusing on functional strength. So we're definitely focused on single leg strength in phase one. We've got a front foot elevated pause split squat. We've got barbell RDL, that's a Romanian deadlift, straight-legged deadlift. And we've got some, this is a little bit of a sort of a power exercise, I think. I'm not sure if you can see this or not. Okay, kind of hard to tell what's going on there, but sort of a little bit of an explosive exercise, just sort of resting on the bench a little bit and then kind of exploding up. Whoops. Okay, let me stop that. Okay, so this is a little bit of what's happening in phase one. So there's a lot of like sort of prehab kind of exercises, working some of the smaller muscle groups, working at the end range of motion in phase one. Now phase two, we are more focused on power development. And so we're having things like jumping squats in phase two, along with snatch grip jumps. We've got Russian step-ups. This is a really great exercise that's a lot harder than it looks. But all the exercises in phase two are faster-paced exercises working more in the power end of the spectrum. Phase three, you can see we do have some sort of speed and agility work. So we've got a lateral bound and stick, which is a jumping exercise. We have tuck jumps. But if you look at the sets and reps of these are very low, and the main focus of this workout is actually on the squat, one of the big four lifts. And that's true of the rest of the strength training workouts as well. There's one big lift that we're focusing on with heavier weights and lower reps. And so the main focus of phase three is in developing more pure strength. And then phase four, we go back to power. And so we've got some medicine ball throws, some more Olympic lifting derivatives, and things like that. Some more plyometric-y kind of things. And then we still have some sort of assistance lifts that are more, I won't say, I guess, normal strength training for lack of a better word. Okay, so that is just a little bit about how we vary some of the strength training within the Ultimate Athlete Project, depending on what phase we're in. And so here, this is all off-season phases, but each phase still has its own focus for a limited time, and that allows for better adaptation than focusing on multiple things at once. Okay, so let me go back to my slides. Okay, I think, here we go. And if you have questions about any of this, again, I want to remind you can ask in the chat box, and we will get to them at the end. All right, now let's talk about some common errors that I see in scheduling. So some common errors in scheduling are thinking that more is better. And this goes along with how a workout makes us feel. It's easy to think that if you're more sore, that you're getting more adaptation, or if your workout left you more exhausted, that it was better. But oftentimes that's not the case, because recovery is when adaptation really happens. And so you have to make sure that you're planning the frequency of your workout so you can recover between each type of workout. Another common error in scheduling is attempting to work on contradictory athletic qualities at the same time. So we talked about this before, trying to work on cardiovascular conditioning at the same time as working on strength training. Some common errors in scheduling are just about workout order, putting agility drills at the end of a practice or at the end of a workout instead of putting them up front, because the nervous system activity has to be done when you're fresh and not tired. And then another error I see specifically with Ultimate Athlete projects is trying to add things to the Ultimate Athlete project without taking things away. So you can't always just be adding your favorite exercises to whatever training program you're doing. If you have a training program, well, that was hopefully designed as a complete program. And so if you add things to it without taking something away, you're going to have too much volume, or or maybe you're not going to have the right progression of exercises. So I've seen this happen several times where players will want to add more box jumps or add this or add that because they like certain plyometric exercises. But sometimes those players, at least in 2 instances, I know those players had too much volume and then injured themselves. So when you are adding things to a complete training program, you want to make sure that you can substitute things, but you just got to be really careful with your volume. Okay, and again, I want to keep things simple. So I know maybe what I showed you in the Ultimate Athlete Project, it looks a little bit complicated, but this is really something that you can do for yourself. And if you don't have access to sort of all the weight room equipment or other things, that's going to influence what kind of training program you have too. But you can do this for yourself. And so to keep it simple, here are some things, here are some tips. Choose 1 to 2 athletic qualities per training block. So, if you just ended your club season, you might want to take a few weeks off or whatever, but then your first training block might be, say, a strength training block. And you just want to make sure you have some sort of balanced functional strength training program. Going to include some lunges, some push-ups, some pull-ups, some deadlift variations, something like that. You can do that for a block. A training block can be anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks long, and this is the ideal length. Shorter than 3 weeks, you're not going to get that much adaptation. Longer than 6 weeks, you're going to get diminishing returns. So in the 3 to 6 week range is when you get optimal adaptation, but your body doesn't get overly tired of doing the same thing. So in the UAP, our training blocks are 4 weeks long apiece. I think this limit is good too, because if you have, say, 6 weeks to work on strength training, and that's the amount of time you devoted to it, it's much harder to make excuses for not getting to your workout for that particular day, because that time is always running out. Then you want to order your training blocks in complementary ways that enhance one another. So for instance, you might have a sort of recovery block after the season that focuses on movement quality or tissue quality, things like that. Functional strength training, I also think, is a movement quality type of training block. That's sort of what our preparation phase is like. Then you might have a strength focus block, then power, then speed, and then maybe speed endurance. And if you can, you want to keep other threads of the athletic qualities in your training plan so you can maintain them. But that's not as important depending on what training block you're in. So for example, if you're in the winter, in the off season, just doing some sort of cardiovascular workout every 10 days is enough to sort of maintain a lot of what you have. So it doesn't take as much effort to maintain an athletic quality as it does to build it. But if you can throw in some maintenance work, that's good too. So these would be the main principles to keep in mind in creating your own sort of plan. And you don't have to plan a year out all at once. If you just think 1 block at a time, you can do some good things for yourself and at least make some improvements upon what you did last year. Now, how do I know that this type of training or planning works? It worked for me. That's part of how I came up with the idea of doing the Ultimate Athlete Project. Is I started off with the question of how do professional athletes train, and in sort of researching that question and reading a lot of books and thinking about it a lot, and then also in working at a gym where we trained football players to prepare for the NFL Combine, I learned a lot, and it worked. And it definitely did take a while to trust in what I read, because I also was addicted to, doing more cardiovascular work than necessary. So it worked for me, but that doesn't mean it would work for you. But it has worked for hundreds of other athletes who have gone through the Ultimate Athlete Project programs and done a year-long plan. And I think the biggest testament to the fact that this type of planning works is that my most successful Ultimate Athlete Project athletes are those with prior strength training experience. So it's fairly easy to take a person who's been sitting on the couch or not training and give them good results, because anything that they do is going to get them results. But I think the fact that I've had the greatest success stories with athletes who already had some strength training, sort of knew what they were doing. You take those types of athletes who are used to training, put them on an organized, periodized plan, and the results are so much better. So I think that's really the proof that planning and blocking your scheduling really has a big impact. And so these are some of the emails that I get from athletes. I just got this email just last week from a team who's thinking of working with me. Fewer players use the UAP. They have all exhibited huge improvements in their athleticism since starting the program. So it's self-evident when you have athletes using the program. Here's a good example of someone who had some gym experience. Straight up, it's been fantastic. Having been in the gym previously, I was familiar with the concepts, but the UAP brought it to a whole new level. Having a program to follow, switching up to exercises, periodization, and different programs for different points in this season were all huge positives. And this is someone who I primarily followed the gym workouts, but would sometime work in some of the SAQ and conditioning. So I think this is interesting because they, a lot of ultimate players are really focused on wanting to do speed and agility work, wanting to do conditioning, but this person just did mostly the strength training. And even with just the strength training, he says, I can say without question I felt much stronger than a previous point, and come Canadian point with ease and feeling explosive and strong on the field. So that's pretty fantastic. So, I think this goes to show a lot of players underestimate the contribution of strength training to things like endurance and being able to play all day long. That's not just about your cardiovascular system. And so this is kind of a long quote, but for those of you who are hoping for to feel better and have some recurring injury issues, my off-season training has been some of the best work I've done. I've made slow gains in many exercises, but the best thing that has happened to me has been getting some symmetry back in my body. And that's what functional strength training does. Training movements, not muscles, can really help to even you out. So the UAP has a lot of focus on single leg, single arm strength training. So it's been an important part in helping me believe in myself again, realizing I'm just getting older and then I have to take my training more seriously. I've spent the past 3 years wondering if I could be fast, jump high, and not be in pain ever again. And the answer is yes. I can do all these things. I'm going to keep training so I can do them even better. So that's awesome. So maybe that will be your story this coming season. This is a great one. I'm already throwing farther than a month ago, even though I haven't been practicing my throws at all, just doing the exercises in the prep phase and in the off-season phase 1. So I would attribute this to our core strength emphasis in the Ultimate Athlete Project. That is probably why her throws are going farther. So so these are all things that can come from an organized strength training or just training plan. So some common results that I get in the Ultimate Athlete Project, those are all people that email me being really excited. But, I hear a lot from people being able to just move better, move more athletically, feeling more athletic. And when they say more athletically, it's with more power, more coordination. Sort of a subjective term when people say they feel more athletic, but I think that's what it means. But I also hear a lot of clearing up of nagging injury issues just by adding some muscle strength, balanced muscle strength. Very common result is feeling better late in the season. So the ultimate season is very long and it's very stressful. So if you in the off season have extra strength to sort of burn, then you don't feel so weak, and so you don't feel the joint pain or like whatever else is going on late in the season. And just an overall general durability, whether that's during a tournament or again during the long season. So those are some common results in the Ultimate Athlete Project. So what do you do next? So as I said, I hope that you can take what you've learned today and if you want to build your own training program, you certainly can take what you've learned today and do that. Just start by thinking about one phase at once. Or if you want to, you can sign up for the Ultimate Athlete Project. And I actually opened the I opened the Ultimate Athlete Project this morning. It's not open all the time because of this belief in long-term planning. So I don't want people to sign up just 8 weeks before their season starts. I want people to sign up 6 to 8 months before their season starts. And that's why the Ultimate Athlete Project is only open at certain times of year. And it's open now. So if you would like to check it out and would like to have a long-term training plan that's already designed for you, you can sign up now. You can try it for 50 cents for 2 weeks. You can check it out and you can see what all's in there. When you sign up, you have immediate access to the preparation phase, which is where I'd recommend everyone start. You'll also have access to phase 1, so you can look at that too. And then after you try it for 50 cents, it's 15 bucks a month after that. And you can cancel at any time. So if you want to check that out, there should be a button on your right. You can click over there and check it out. Or you can just go to theultimateathleteproject.com. And yeah, and you can check out more testimonials there and find out more information about it as well. So the Ultimate Athlete Project is open now. It's open September 16th through the 20th. Now is the best time for college players, European players, and AUDL, MLU players to join. If you're a club player, you can join also, but I know many of you club players just finished up your season. If you're a club player and join now, it's good because you're going to have a full 6 months to do the off-season training. If you're a college European player, I know that your seasons sort of start a little earlier, so now is really the best time for you to join to get the most off-season training possible. Okay, I think that is it. Let me see, do I have any other slides? If you have any questions, either about the Ultimate Athlete Project or or about anything we've talked about today, just a reminder, you can ask in the chat box. So again, in the Ultimate Athlete Project, what we have are complete training programs. They're complete in that they include all the things you need, the strength training, speed and agility work, conditioning, and they're complete in that they are designed to last you all year long. They're designed with athletic performance in mind, so if you want to think of yourself as an athlete and train like an athlete, you know, this is what they're made for. They're also designed with ultimate in mind, so I have over 15 years of playing experience, and so I know what ultimate does to the body. I know about its rotational demands, and all those things are baked in to the Ultimate Athlete Project programming. It does have flexible scheduling, so I just showed you a little bit about the Ultimate Athlete Project, but basically you can choose anywhere between 2 hours a week and 6 hours a week of training, and I have suggested schedules for all of those options. Honestly, 2 hours a week is not going to get you super far, but you know, if you are a busy person and you just want to use that time most efficiently, well, you can use the Ultimate Athlete Project for that. Typical use is most players, I think, do between 3 and 5 hours or 3 to 6 hours a week in the Ultimate Athlete Project. And players who join the Ultimate Athlete Project tend to stay in the Ultimate Athlete Project all season long. So, because once you start seeing results probably in the second month, and then you really see the results in your first tournament or when you start going to your sort of warm-up tryout events. Okay, and the Ultimate Athlete Project is based on both exercise science and experience. I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach and have 15 years of experience playing Ultimate and have watched many athletes go through the Ultimate Athlete Project. So yeah, it's a combination of all those good things. You know, we talked about this at the beginning as sort of the story of your success. In any good sort of movie with an epic journey, you're also going to have sort of allies on your journey. And so, you know, I try to help out with that in the Ultimate Athlete Project as well. So when you join the Ultimate Athlete Project, you join for the training programs, but you also, as a bonus, get a whole community of Ultimate Athlete Project athletes to cheer you on and help keep you motivated. So you'll be able to join a Ultimate Athlete Project Facebook group. If you have questions, you can ask them there, or if you just want to chat, or if you want to find someone to commiserate with, you can meet other people there. You also have mentors. There's many people that have been in the Ultimate Athlete Project for 2 or 3 years now, and they are a great resource, not only with talking about their own experiences in the UAP, but talking about their experiences as players as well. And then we have advisors. So obviously myself, I'm always available to answer your questions. But I've also brought on Ren Caldwell, who's a good friend of mine and a great trainer from Seattle. And she has a lot of experience working with individuals and figuring out sort of movement pattern issues. So if you have an injury history or something like that, she can give you a little bit of extra help There's also the option for an individualization type of upgrade within the UAP that she provides. And so I'm really happy to be partnering with her in providing that for you guys who want a little bit of something extra. Awesome. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to, to come and join me. And I hope that you have taken at least one thing away today that you can add to your training program, or I hope that you'll, I hope you've learned more about the Ultimate Athlete Project and its philosophies. And if you're interested, I hope that you will check it out. So, okay. So let's see, I've got some questions here. So is there a specific percentage of body weight you should be lifting before transitioning out of a strength phase? So for example, sometimes people throw around numbers like, should you be able to should you be able to bench press your body weight? Should you be able to squat twice your body weight or 1.5 times your body weight? And yeah, I feel like the strength and conditioning community goes back and forth on this question a little bit, but I think it really depends on what you're doing. So I definitely have an emphasis on keeping things pretty safe within the Ultimate Athlete Project. My main priority is to keep athletes healthy, because if they are not healthy, then they're not contributing to their team. So So what I would say to that is, like, if we were doing a really heavy plyometric phase in the Ultimate Athlete Project, then yes, those numbers might be more important. Now, we are doing some plyometrics, but we're not doing like massive sort of depth jump things. We're not doing anything like that. So, and for a lot of professional athletes, it would take them a long time to get to the point where they are squatting twice their weight. And if you never do any type of power development exercises before that, you're just not going to get very far. So I think those numbers are really dependent on what exactly you're doing. And within the Ultimate Athlete Project, we do not do a super high volume of high intensity plyometrics. What we do is power development work, working on getting power out of the hips. We do some agility work, and we do a low volume of plyometrics. And so for that, it's not critical. Okay, so another question. In the same vein, how is appropriate lifting weight determined for strength exercises, especially those we may not already be familiar with? Okay, so great question. This is sort of how to choose what weights to start with on a given exercise. So when you have a strength training protocol, usually what happens is that you'll be given a rep range. So do this particular type of lunges for 8 to 10 reps. And so you want to choose a weight in which you are failing within that particular repetition range. So if you choose a weight that's too heavy, then you're not going to be able to complete 8 repetitions. If you choose a weight that's too light, you're going to be able to easily complete 10 repetitions. And the way you determine that is sort of by trial and error. The more strength training experience you have, the easier it is to guess correctly the first or second time. But if you're just starting out, I mean, it is just going to be a guess. And when we say repetitions to failure, what we mean is failure of form. So if you are not able to keep your spine neutral, that would be a failure of form and would count as not a complete repetition. So yeah, basically you sort of guess, and then and I guess, like, if I were to say I was doing lunges and I picked up 5-pound dumbbells, and then I could easily do 12, but my goal was 8 to 10 reps. Well, maybe I would decide, okay, that first set didn't count, and then maybe I'd do another set. But then, the second week that I came into the weight room, then I would know which weight to choose, because I would have found it from the first week. And yes, you'll get a little stronger, so you would maybe want to see if you can lift 5 pounds heavier, something like that. Okay, so that was a long answer. I think the short answer is it is trial and error, and you get better at it as you have more strength training experience. And then, say I'm doing a particular type of lunges, If in my next block I'm doing some other type of lunges, I can sort of guesstimate based on, well, if I can do a diagonal lunge with this much weight, this other type of lunge might be a little harder, so maybe I'll start with a little less, or maybe the same, something like that. All right, how do team practices, games, pickup, etc. fit into the Ultimate Athlete Project? Does the UAP assume that these things are happening as well, or should you do less of the UAP things to make up for extra things you are doing, especially during the season? Okay, so there's kind of several questions in here. So how do team practices, games, and pickup fit into the Ultimate Athlete Project? So in the Ultimate Athlete Project, like I said, you can choose how many hours a week you're going to devote to Ultimate Athlete Project training. Now, some people do have a true off season. So if you're a club player in the US, oftentimes you're not playing Ultimate over the winter, or maybe you're playing like a week of Winter League or something like that. And that kind of situation is ideal for off-season training because you don't have these other things that are conflicting. But if you're in an area of the country where you do play all year round, or just there's pressure to play all the time, you might have to do things a little differently. And the way I would handle that is to, again, think about your priorities. So, maybe it is really important to you to play twice a week all year round. I think if you're a younger or newer player, that might be more important because you need that skill development still. Whereas if you're a veteran, that playing might not be as important to you. It might be more important to develop your athleticism. But if you do want to play all year round, then what I would do is I would count that as my conditioning, and then I wouldn't do the conditioning in the Ultimate Athlete Project in, say, my off-season phases. And instead, I would just focus on the strength training and power development and not worry about doing all of the workouts within the Ultimate Athlete Project. I think that can be one of the tricky things about the Ultimate Athlete Project, is because there is so much possibility. There's so many possible hours of training you can be doing. You just have to realize you don't need to do it all. If you can only do 2 or 3 hours a week, then that's what you do. And as long as you do that consistently, you're going to get better results. Okay, now during the in-season, the Ultimate Athlete Project has in-season phases, which do have lower volume of pretty much everything. So especially the strength training, during the in-season, we cut it back to twice a week. I've just found that during the season, it's just, you need more time for recovery after tournaments, or if you got weekend-long practices, you need some time to recover for that. And so we cut down the strength training to twice a week. It's more of like maintaining everything and trying to stay durable, happy, and healthy during the in-season. Great question. Okay, so John asks, is there a nutrition component to the Ultimate Athlete Project? Really great question. There's not like a specifically organized diet plan that goes with the Ultimate Athlete Project. There is some extra information in the Ultimate Athlete Project that I wrote that is about nutrition for athletes. In the Ultimate Athlete Project, I have sort of an extras section where I put other informational stuff that would be useful. So last year I wrote a multi-part series about nutrition for athletes, and I think that will be helpful. But there is not yet a nutritionist in the Ultimate Athlete Project. Maybe someday. Okay, so Tracy asks, when is the next time club players should join? And what's the minimum number of weeks needed to complete the Ultimate Athlete Project? The next time the Ultimate Athlete Project will be open will be mid-November, so about 8 weeks from now. And either time is a good time for club players to join. When I created the Ultimate Athlete Project, since I was a club player, I sort of thought about the club player in mind. And so, if you start now as a club player, like I said, you're going to have a full 6 months of the off-season training plan time available. If you join in November, then you'll only have 4 months of that available, and that's still fine. You're still going to get great results. So the minimum number, basically, here's how it works. The openings of the Ultimate Athlete Projects are September, October, and January. If you were to join it, I would not recommend joining in January for a college or a European player, just because there's not as much time. And to really get you the results that I want you to have, more time in the off season. So I would recommend for club players to join January at the latest. College, European, and semi-pro players should join either now or in November. Okay. So I think okay, I think that is about it. We might not have gotten to all of your questions, but it's been an hour and I don't want to take up too much of your time. If I didn't get to your question and you still have a question, you can feel free to email me and I will try to get back to you as many questions as possible this afternoon. So I still have I have a lot of yeah, so a lot of you may have already emailed me with questions. Just know that I have read and I will read all of your emails, but there are a lot coming in at this time, so it may take me a day or two to get back to you. But I promise I will get back to you. And if you're thinking about joining the Ultimate Athlete Project and you have some questions about how it works before you make that decision, that is totally fine. That totally makes sense. So you can feel free to email me at melissa@ultiresults.com. That's ULTY results.com. Melissa, MELISSA. I'll think I can put that in the chat box. Hold on, let me try. Just give me a second. Oops. Okay, so I put it sort of at the top of the chat box, and you should be able to see that. If you can't see that, maybe click on the chat icon. But anyway, again, that's melissa@ultiresults.com. So if you have questions and I didn't get to them today, just shoot me an email and expect a reply in a day or two. And again, if you want to sign up for the Ultimate Athlete Project, if you want this sort of long-term planning done for you, then you can sign up for that today. We're open from now through Sunday. And again, that's at theultimateathleteproject.com. If you just go there, it should direct you right to where you need to go. Again, it's just $15 a month and you can cancel anytime. So if you want to try it for a few months and see if it's for you, you can totally do that. Also, there's a 50-cent 2-week trial. So yeah, if you just want to poke around and see what's in there and get some ideas, get some new exercise ideas, that's totally fine with me. So yeah, feel free to do that. So again, thank you for coming. That's all for now, and I will hopefully see you online again soon.